Out of four, where the breaking news case here, na beto dra me so beginning na bro e Ghanatube. Breaking news where the if America memu U.S.A, the United States of America, Donald Trump are catching. Breaking news, let attention pan if Donald Trump or a president of the United States of America, Donald Trump, akache pan and Mr. Beginning na bro, Ghanatube. Let attention pan and I just say if America beto dra Mr. Beginning na bro, Ghanatube for where the youngest foreign affairs minister, Okujeto Ablakwa, or no waba bunting, Mamon himself and Biana, America for or Muyi visa restrictions no, if we Ghana for so. Or for and bia you say Indiana Donald Trump all this information no na just say we kukuru pen DNC paper so all the information tin pa me so be nyina brel Ghana to for manko na yenko tie nsema ekoso America mem information na Donald Trump wasane dia bagana fo nyina me so me sa kan me so be nyina brel Ghana to manko ne ko je nsem nyina nchi bomba isia
be cleared, where it will be cleared to, and how, Palestine, the Palestinian state will be rebuilt. So you see a certain vindication now. You notice that after President Mohammed's address, which has been well received, and many leaders, aligning with his position, you see now that President Trump put out a 20-point plan.
In fact,
and last night
that's what I was going to get into.
We put out our formal position. On the president's instruction on Ghana's position on President Trump's 20-point peace plan.
And that's why I started this conversation with you, because that's the latest. We received this statement before midnight last night, and this is it. That statement in support of President Donald Trump's 20-point Gaza peace plan. So you say Ghana supports this 20-point Donald Trump solution. This is what the statement is all about.
Yes.
Why the support exactly?
So this statement is very much consistent with President Mohammed's address at the United Nations. President Mohammed, if you recall, stated emphatically that the crimes in Gaza must stop. He didn't mince words at all. That's a verbatim quote from his address. The crimes in Gaza must stop. He called for de-escalation. That this genocide, and you heard Dr. Ibn Chambers very clearly, and before this UN address, Ghana had stated that we align with the position of the UN experts. I mean, we have scholars and experts on genocide who have concluded in a unanimous report that what is happening to the Palestinians is genocide, and that it has to be called what it is. Now, this Trump 20-point Gaza peace plan calls for exactly what President Mohammed is demanding.
Would it be an end to this tremendous suffering,
ceasefire,
and the loss of
de-escalation? This is clearly an olive branch being extended. The Trump administration, which, remember, has a lot of leverage, they wield tremendous influence on Israeli politics. And Prime Minister Netanyahu listens to President Trump. So President Trump has the influence and the Trump card, no pun intended.
Yes.
Now, this 20-point peace plan, if you study the 20 points, which calls for an immediate release of the hostages on both sides from Hamas and then from the Israeli authorities. Specific numbers have been provided, and for every hostage released by Hamas, 15 Israelis will be released. And then it calls for a de-radicalization of Hamas. It calls for a safe passage for Hamas to move out of Palestine to a country of their choice where they will be protected.
Yes.
The peace plan is also clearly stating that now the Palestinians and the Israelis can live side by side. Remember that this has become a contentious issue where Prime Minister Netanyahu said that it is his desire to abolish the Palestinian state and that he does not think that the two-state solution is the way to go, really contradicting the UN position on this matter since 1948. I am delighted that this 20-point peace plan, and it's a major shift, we have to admit, even on U.S. foreign policy. So it shows that all of the international pressure by President Mahama, those who have come on board, led by President Macron, Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and the Prime Minister of Canada, Norway, and others, clearly that pressure, is yielding results. So what this peace plan will do is to eventually lead to ceasefire and de-escalation, return of the people of Palestine who are seeking refuge in many places around the Middle East. And then, most importantly, it will begin to usher us into a rebuilding of Gaza. So it's a very significant development. It calls for a peace board as well.
Right.
And there's been some controversy, though, about the first person named, former Prime Minister of the UK, Tony Blair, who's been named to serve on the peace board. But clearly, when you look at our statement, you can see that Ghana is still conscious of a non-aligned role.
Okay.
So even though we are, and you see, your friends are those, and I've been telling my good friend, the Israeli ambassador, that the way we are brought up in this country, our culture, our way of life, and the principles we stand for, a good friend is the one who is able to tell you that, look, this time you got it wrong. Because I love you, I care about you, this path you are taking is not the right path. And so we are not going to, as it were, cut ties with the Israelis, or if you like, reduce our bilateral cooperation. Neither are we going to say that we will stay away from the Palestinians. We will maintain cordial bilateral relations with both sides. We will deepen those ties. Indeed, we are doing a lot in terms of education, agriculture, and we have a lot of new cooperation that we are exploring. And I like how President Mahama quoted President Nkrumah during his address, that we seek to be friends of all and enemies to none. That has always been our raison d'etre, and it will continue to guide us, as we pursue our foreign policy. And so the statement we put out last night on President Mahama's instruction was to really urge all factions, particularly Hamas, which, remember, that until this morning had not responded. Now Hamas has responded, and they are calling for some amendments, but it's a good step. And I think that the pressure that countries like Ghana and others who have come on board, France, UK, Canada, are demonstrating is the way to go. Right. And let us remember that all of us, people may be asking, okay, so how does this affect the ordinary Ghanaian? First of all, we must know that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If we allow certain principles to be established in world affairs, where might is right, because you are powerful, you have nuclear weapons, you have a strong army, you can invade a country, you can decide that some nation should not exist, and you can just descend and bomb them and all of that. And another significant development over the past few days has been Prime Minister Netanyahu apologizing to Qatar, to the state of Qatar. And remember that Ghana condemned the attack on Qatar, that it was certainly an affront to their sovereignty, and that should not have been done. Those who may have been wondering why Ghana did that, now with the apology from Prime Minister Netanyahu, you see that Ghana's foreign policy is very much on track, and that we are sticking to principle. And you see, it is not difficult. When you stick to principle, the rule-based order, respect for sovereignty, respect for the UN Charter, respect for human rights, these principles, once you stick to it, you will always be on the right side of history, on the side of the oppressed, of the vulnerable, and the Almighty will be on your side, and God will continue to bless you. So these things eventually come to help us, particularly those of us who are relatively small countries, who don't have some of the weapons and ammunitions and artillery and bombardment power that these countries have. So these are very good principles that help our country moving forward.
It was worth that too.
Other four when you're breaking news about to drag, yes, if we Donald Trump, the country, the United States of America, Donald Trump, America pan, and on more this 20 Donald Trump, 20 points Gaza, almost Donald Trump, 20 Gaza points. And all the batch is a letter tintin information can see fee Donald Trump a catcher about Ghana phones as support this idea now. Foreign Affairs Minister Mohamed Okude to a black what barbon between two and beginning in our bro Ghanatube. Aha, and I'm in some in our business. If some bell liking, no more subscribe, no more share, no more notification button. So I might send a bear. Bring here, be a dope content. Say, who would you need to pan what you need to for aha, and I'm in some in our business. Ghanatube so. Makramunina, Medamunina celebrate.